What's going on tonight to the YSN Village? It's great to see everyone, man. I'm geeked up tonight. We got some killers and some heavyweights in the house tonight. Excited. We got some four girls high school varsity basketball coaches here in Indiana that are going to join us. And this is definitely for players and for parents. Please make sure you have pad and pen. And most importantly, ask questions. You'll have an opportunity in the chat in YouTube where you can ask questions. We're not going to wait until the end to answer them. We're going to try to interject those questions as we're moving along. We'll be certainly talking about things, but we definitely want to be able to get your questions answered while you have four of the brightest coaching minds in the game in the house tonight. So I'm excited to be here. Again, YSN Village, some of you all that have followed us and supported us throughout the past, man, it's going on 2 years already. I think this is session number 108 tonight. And of course, we've talked about financial education. We've talked about technology education, emotional intelligence, of course, in multiple career paths off the court, but also we try to make sure we touch on things that help us while we're still playing. And so tonight is one of those sessions that's dedicated to young people, specifically girls basketball players, and then, of course, their parents. Because I think the more we can get educated, the more we can remove some of our emotions out of some of the decisions that we make. And the more we can learn and continue to fill our thoughts with the right stuff. And you're going to hear it tonight from four coaches. I think the better off everybody will be, because ultimately we just want all of our kids to have a very successful playing experience. And I guarantee you they're going to work and be professionals in something outside of playing much longer than they're going to play. So we want to make sure we develop that as well. So without further ado, let me bring in some folks that I think will be able to share some great things with us tonight. So starting out, I'm bringing in Coach Jannon Lampley. She actually is over at Lawrence Central here in Indianapolis, Indiana. She's got the winningest season that I've seen on record, at least in the 2000s. So she had a great season last year, going 16-8. So let me bring on Coach Jannon Lampley. How you doing, Coach?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's go. Next is my brother, Coach Bennett. Justin Bennett is the new coach at Tri-West. He's going to be charged with breathing new life into that program and bringing a lot of success. He's got 72 coaching wins at the varsity level in his 8 seasons of coaching. And this brother is going to be able to share tonight with us as well. So let me bring in my man, Coach Bennett. What's up, Coach?
How you doing, my brother? Appreciate you having me.
I see that, TW. I got you. And next, I want to bring in Coach Carothers. He actually and I shared the same school for about 3 years. Very, very energetic coach. Love his style. And he's done very, very well. He's now the coach of Decatur Central going into his second year. Believe he had 14 wins last season, got 77 wins in his coaching career at the varsity level. And so let me bring in Coach Carothers. What's up, Coach?
How y'all doing?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And last but certainly not least, we got Coach Stacy Mitchell. Comes to us from the powerhouse Warren Central program. Got 118 wins in his time there at Warren Central, and a proud state champion in 2018. So we're fortunate to have Coach Mitchell in the house tonight. How you doing, Coach?
Hey, everything's going well. Good to see everybody this evening, and I'm
Definitely.
excited about the discussion.
Absolutely, man. So what I'd like to do quickly first is just if you all can take a 30-second minute, please just kind of say who you are, maybe a quick thing about where you coach at, what your, whatever you want to say. But let's just keep it short so we can get right into the questions. But I do want to give you all an opportunity to kind of announce where you coach at and all of that. So, Coach Lampley, we'll start with you.
Sure. Jannon Lampley, head coach at Lawrence Central High School, a former WNBA college athlete at Purdue, and looking forward to lead my team this year.
Absolutely. Coach Bennett, thank you, Jannon.
My name is Justin Bennett. I am currently at Tri-West. I've coached at Indianapolis Marshall, International High School, Cascade, and also in Greenwood, and got a little bit of college experience and my pro experience. And hey, I'm just wanting to give back to the community and help these young ladies be better at basketball and life.
There you go. Like that. Like that. Coach Carothers, how about you?
Nic Carothers, head coach at Decatur Central High School. I've coached everywhere from little girls basketball, from elementary and middle school, all the way up to professional basketball, the GWBA.
Hey, sorry about that. That was a production error right there. Go ahead, Coach Carothers.
So I coached from little girls all the way up to professional basketball and doing training for men and women's basketball at Butler University. Some of the players individually helped run summer camps there. Recently, I was at Tinley with you before at Decatur Central. And I'm just blessed to have an opportunity to be of service to the youth.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Coach Mitchell.
Stacy Mitchell, head coach of Warren Central girls basketball. This will be my 9th year as a head coach of Warren Central girls basketball. I was a varsity assistant for an Indiana great, Greg Graham, when he was the head coach for the boys. Born and raised in Bolivar, Tennessee. Been living here in Indianapolis for quite a while. Played high school basketball, college basketball, and I just enjoy what I'm doing right now.
Very good. Very good. Well, it's great to have everyone on, man. I can't wait to get into this. And we're going to try to go in somewhat of a like progression, let's say, for that parent that maybe has a kid that's 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. And then we're going to, of course, forge right into high school and some of the things that the kids and parents need to know about there. But let's start off with you, Coach Lampley. If, just kind of with the mindset of what we know of maturity, young ladies develop a lot sooner than guys do. When do you think the development process should really start for a young lady? And that could be, the combination of games, training, weights. What are your thoughts on that?
Most definitely. I think it's a case of nature versus nurture a little bit. You kind of have to assess your child and see where they are to start. I mean, everyone looks at, my own personal daughters and they just assume that they automatically were good from the beginning. That's not true. We allowed them to start playing the game, just develop a love for it, enjoy it. And we used to get beat all the time and we were okay with that. And then we started to get serious with basketball when they did. So we let them lead the charge so that we weren't pushing them to do something we wanted them to do. So I think you have to watch that process. And it's a very ginger process as well.
Sure.
As far as games, we look at games and training. Training days are like going to school. You go to school every day. You're in class every day. Games are your test. So you never want your game days to outweigh the number of practices that you have. You don't want 4 games a week and 2 practices, because with school, you're going to be upside down.
Right.
So we try to train the skill set first, because you're going to be able to take that skill set with you wherever you go. Games. The young kids, the games are for parents, really. And of course the kids enjoy them. But as a parent, you want to make sure you monitor that. And then as they progress, I mean, our girls didn't start lifting until maybe 7th grade.
Okay.
7th, 8th grade. But there were certain lifts we didn't allow them to do.
Right.
Anything with body weight. I think you focus more so on technique. I think technique is the most important to focus on. Make sure they're doing the lifts properly first, because you can do yourself more harm than good.
Sure.
And if you're not very educated in that process and exactly how and what to do, then maybe you want to outsource that as well. maybe if that's something they do with the training. I don't recommend parents just immediately jump in to training. You can train a layup, you can train your own ball handling, those basic skill sets. And then when it starts getting more specific and specialized, then maybe if you don't have the education and knowledge yourself, then maybe outsource those to someone that's a viable option.
Makes sense. Coach Carothers, thank you for that. Coach Carothers, I know you worked a lot of camps, over the years, but, any thoughts that you would share on like when, is it a certain age? Is it because I like the nature. I like that. I hadn't thought about it like that.
That was a really important thing Coach Lampley said.
Yeah.
Very important thing that Coach Lampley said. If she's not happy, then you pushing her into it and she's not enjoying it, she's not going to get anything out of it. I would wholeheartedly say that at a young age, training functional movement, functional basketball movement and fundamentals is the most important thing. And if she takes to that, along with taking care of his or her body as a person, the biggest thing we have now, we have some top athletes all across the country. But when you talk about body maintenance and proper stretching and proper nutrition, those things are kind of pushed to the wayside. But the crossover and the step back is really, really big in the training. But you only get one body. I can learn that move later. So I need to learn the right habits first to maintain what I'm doing. So the functional movement, the body maintenance, that stuff needs to be taken seriously early once she has made the decision that I'm serious about the game. So if she's down with that part, she's down with the fundamental part of the game, then she'll be more than ahead of the game of a lot of the players that we have now. So.
Anything to add, Coach Mitchell, Coach Bennett there?
Coach Bennett?
I agree with Coach Lampley and Coach Carothers. Just knowing how to do those basketball functional things first is the main thing. You see so many games with second, third graders trying to hoist 3-pointers, and they should be playing with age-appropriate balls, shooting at age-appropriate basket heights, and it's creating bad habits. They should be doing nothing but fundamentals and working on agility things. So I agree with both of those guys. As far as weights, 7th, 8th grade, maybe once you get into high school where you have somebody who's going to work with them on the proper technique and how to do those things, I think that's important.
And I agree. I agree with the coaches. We're all basically kind of saying the same thing. I spoke with our weights instructor that we had the last couple of years. He has moved on to college now. His name is Keith Swift. And Keith shared with us, coaches on our coaching staff, that in the earlier ages when it comes to weightlifting, nothing before the age 12 or 13, just emphasize body weight, things like pull-ups, push-ups, lunges, things of that nature, just to get their body strong. And when it comes to how soon do you start training them, I believe soon as the interest is there. My daughter, believe it or not, she wanted to start playing basketball when she was 4 years old. So I put a ball in her hand and we started working on just form shooting. We would sit in the chair and just work on form shooting, and then we would do ball handling drills, things of that nature. So if the interest is there, start as soon as the interest is there and keep it fun. Make it something that they will enjoy.
I like that. So the kids should be driving it.
Yeah.
Very much. Driving.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Fantastic. So let's start with you, Coach Mitchell, on this one. What are your thoughts around the importance of AAU in the development process? Obviously, kids can train. We're talking about that. They can go outside on their own. They can work with a trainer. But what part do you think that AAU plays in it at those, let's say, 3rd through 8th grade levels?
Okay, 3rd through 8th grade levels, AAU, if done properly, can play a huge part in it. Again, we're talking about fundamentals, teach them how to play basketball, pass, catch, shoot, dribble, defend, those fundamental things. If you get in a program, an AAU program that's teaching you that, it's not so much concerned on, holding up an award at the end of the weekend or holding up a trophy. If you get a real good program that's going to teach, that's going to be great. Now, if you get in a program and, it's about taking pictures and putting stuff on Twitter and Facebook, then, you're going to pay a lot of money. You're going to do a lot of traveling. You're going to spend a lot of time, and your child may not get better. So at that age, at that early age, really at all ages, but, especially when they're young, if you find a program that's going to really teach them how to play and really teach them how to share the basketball, how to come off screens, set screens, spacing, timing, and movement, things of that nature, it can play a huge role. But if you don't get a program like that, if you want to hold up, trophies and medals, you're going to be disappointed.
But I want my kid on the top team.
Right.
My kid needs to be on the best team. So what about that? I want to hold the trophy up and put some pictures on Facebook.
And you know what? I'm going to tell you what I tell my wife. I don't want my daughter to be the best 10-year-old. Okay. I want her to progress and peak at the right time. Because I'm pretty sure all of us have seen some of our middle school players that were really, really good in middle school, and they had like one or two moves that worked. And then you get them to high school and you can't get it out of them. You know what I mean? Because it worked for them there. And they probably were on some of those top teams where, okay, you're a good driver, so we'll put you right here. You're a good shooter, we'll put you right here. You're a good reader, we'll put you right there. But you're not developing the whole player. So, yeah, you may not be on one of those high-profile teams, but if you're with a program and they're teaching your daughter how to play all the way around the basketball, that's passing, that's dribbling, that's defending, that's movement, that's spacing, that's timing. You learn that by the time they're getting to high school, they're going to peak at the right time, and they're going to be some really good players, and they will be on some of those top-tier teams.
No, I like that.
That's my opinion.
I like that. So, Coach Bennett, what do you think? Because I agree with everything you just said, first of all, Coach Mitchell, but what do you think about that kid or the parent that might be maybe number 8, 9, or 10 on a good team, but they're on a good team? Like, what's the messaging that should be said maybe to that parent if the kid wants to be this high-level player?
I think you have to start with some realistic expectations, first off. If your kid is a high-level playing kid, then I say go for it, because they have to be pushed to get better against other high-level kids. But, if you just want your kid to be a part of a team that's really good to hold up trophies, then you shouldn't expect your kid to get better. So I think you need to figure out where your kid is, and they have to love it first. If you want to play in 3rd grade through 8th grade, it has to be something that's appropriate for them to play, so that they can learn. Again, Coach Lampley mentioned it in the first question. You got to practice more than you play, and all these people who are just showing up for games, you're not going to get better just playing a bunch of games. You're going to learn some bad habits. And if you're any type of athlete and you're better than a lot of kids in your grade, you're going to be better anyway. But what are you going to be able to do to get the most out of you at each level, so that when you get to junior high and high school, they're not just running a pick and roll for you to score every time? Can you make somebody else better? Can you defend? Can you dribble the basketball with your left hand? So I think that's important. Like, where are your kids at? And you have to have a realistic expectation about that.
So here's a twist on it, though. Now, as coaches, if someone is really doing well in 8th grade, or not even going to say 8th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, they got videos that are out there on Instagram all the time, them crossing girls over. Does that help influence like some of what you might, you may go after them? Does that help them though? Even though we want our kid to be the best high school player or even beyond, but some of that, what you see online, does that help influence us as coaches in a sense? Like by us seeing, okay, this girl is doing this or that. And what are your thoughts, Coach Lampley, on that?
Well, to be honest with you, I think that we're kind of divvying into two different pieces of AAU and its effectiveness, because you very well will see girls all the time making those type of highly sophisticated moves. But sometimes our girls need to see that so they can understand you're not there yet, which was the message for my daughters. We took our entire team to AAU Nationals, and we got blasted by 50. And we knew that was going to happen, but we were willing to pay the price because we felt like the end game, they would understand what it looks like.
To see,
And because that's development too. So there were 3rd and 4th grade girls Euro stepping, and we could barely dribble. And so when they saw that as a collective unit, they understood we probably shouldn't put any videos out of us right now. And as Coach Mitchell and Coach Bennett both kind of alluded to, you want a coach that's going to develop you, teach you the fundamentals. But there's a certain piece of it that continues to be development for the 6th, 7th, 8th player as well. Because it's essentially the difference between what we know as a varsity and JV player, which are players that can do certain actions, activities, and pieces of the game with a higher level of effectiveness and efficiency and frequency than other players can. So maybe you do have some of those players that can step back and hit threes, and when it might be 1, 2, and 3, but then 4, 5, 6, and 7 cannot. So you want a coach that's going to hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's development, and it's development for the parent to accept it. Coach Bennett said that you have to have a reality. Everybody has a reality of their kid, but you have to accept it. That's step 2 of the process. Accept what you're seeing. Like, your eyes are they're not fooling you. Accept it. Hey,
Coach
you
Carothers, go ahead.
be on here.
Hey, I love it. This is why we're here. Coach Carothers,
I feel like I'm in the choir and y'all preaching.
Because you've coached it all. I mean, you've coached the camps, you've coached school ball, AAU, but like when you think about it, as you look at it from the high school coaching lens now.
So this goes back to kind of what Coach Lampley said. You want to let the kid lead it, right? You want a kid lead the charge. Mm-hmm. In this, choosing an AAU team, putting your child in an AAU program, as a parent and as a child, 2 things have to be understood. It's not going to come in one summer or the next summer. It's a process, right? Coach Mitchell said it's a process. Number 2, growth is painful. Yes. Growth is painful, and it is not a growth that's just happening when you're younger. You're going to have to grow in high school too, because you're going to come in as an 8th grader or going to be a freshman. You're going to be playing against girls who's juniors, about to be seniors, and they've been lifting weights for 3 years, and it's their senior year now. And you're playing against that person across the line, and that getting beat up and getting banged around, it's painful. Mentally, it's painful. The speed of the game and pushing your IQ on making decisions. If you got a coach that's really coaching you, he or she doesn't want you to be a robot. They want you to make smart decisions on the floor, and they're trusting you to make that decision. You're not going to always make the right decision. As a parent, you got to accept that she's not always going to make the right decision and allow her to grow through her mistakes. That growth is painful for all parties involved. And if we don't accept the pain of that growth, how can we, after the growth is done, look back at how far I came, how much I grew, if I'm only focused on the pain of the growth? You got to accept it. Live the truth, tell the truth, accept the truth. Basketball is not an easy sport. Outside of lacrosse and soccer, it's the most physical sport you're going to play. Okay? This is why they limit your fouls. Okay? You can foul all you want to in soccer until you get a red card. Same, you can hit all you want to in lacrosse, but in basketball, you got to be disciplined to play physical without fouling. So your child's going to get beat up. You know how many times this summer, I'm coaching 17U. Coach Lampley's there. She's there in the stands watching. Our girls getting beat up, getting hit, getting elbowed, getting kind of slung to the ground. The officials not calling nothing, and the parent is very, very upset. I've seen Coach Lampley's daughters get tossed out of bounds. Neither one, mom or dad, said a word because they understand that the growth is painful. And you're going to have to get up, dust yourself off, and keep playing. So, they all hit it on the head, nail on the head, you know.
Coach, can I add something?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so. We all touched on the kids that maybe would be 3rd through 8th, and then Coach Carothers spoke of the high school component. But there's one piece of it I stressed to my girls this summer: you need to play AAU. Okay, here's why. Aside from getting reps, you have to find an appropriate program for you, for your skill set, for your level, for your dream, for your drive.
Say that one more time, please. Say that
you have to find an AAU program that is appropriate for your skill set, your dream, your drive, what you're willing to work for, whatever it may be. You need to take a very critical look at that. But I will say, in terms of comparing high school and AAU, the NCAA is putting the future of basketball back in the hands of the AAU coach.
That's exactly.
The number of days have been cut tremendously. If a kid that wants to play in college decided they didn't want to play in high school, that's perfectly fine for college coaches, okay? Because they have more evaluation days during the summer, okay? So essentially, these AAU coaches are in the driver's seat. So hopefully high school coaches will see them as an ally instead of an adversary. My hope is. But I think that parents need to be educated about understanding that if you want your kid to play in college, they want to play in college, you need to be involved in a very good AAU program.
Makes sense. So that's a fine balance, because a very good AAU program that, like B, your kid is still playing a lot. Like that's still, I think, important too, right? I mean, we still want them to be rotational, where if a coach shows up or coaches show up to see the girl play, she is getting in the game. She's making some sort of impact. You know, I mean, it's great. We know the coaches do look at body language when the girl's not playing. You know, they watch how they cheer their teammates. They watch all of that. We
Most
get
definitely.
that. But I think that's the balance. That's the rub of finding a good program, but still finding a good program where you're contributing.
A fit is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Hey, I'm gonna park for a second. We got a question from someone y'all all know and love that says, "Do coaches remember the refs' names during a game?" Chris Shields, hey, go home, Chris. No,
I'll be honest with you. I don't talk to the refs that much.
Really?
I mean, we all know as coaches, trying to get our kids to execute and stay focused and be tuned in. That's a job in itself. I tell my players, hey, you do the best you can do. The refs going to do the best they can do. You know what I'm saying? And I coach my girls. I coach my players. I may tell the refs, hey, good job at the end of the game, but I'm really concentrating on my players.
Yeah.
So your answer is no, you don't know the name.
We don't know the name, right?
So I'm not alone.
Right. No, you're not by yourself. No, I don't know the name.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
That's funny.
I can't say I don't know their name, but if I do say something to them, I try to say something during the free throw when it's not live action, not yelling at them across the floor. But you all have seen me coach. I got a big mouth. I'm talking to my team most of the game. I rarely say anything to them, you know, unless I've been coaching for a long time, so I've known them for a long time. And like you said, different arenas. So I ask them how their family are doing or something before the game. Outside of that, I got a job to do. I need to be what that young lady needs at that time. I don't have time to chit chat. So
for sure.
I think we're 2-0 right now. What about you, Coach Bennett?
Now, listen, I do know some of their names because there may be a time where I had to come and say, hey, man, hey, Chris, man, let me talk to you for a minute. Mm-hmm. You know, and so, but other than that, no, I don't remember all of them, but I try to remember at least one of them, so I approach them and have a name, and it makes it kind of personal when you know their name.
We have to this year because we got to evaluate each one of them after every game.
That's right.
After every game, that's the new rule. Yeah.
Yep. After every game.
Oh,
so let's move on, and obviously, let's see. Yeah, everyone is in pretty much a township where you have a strong feeder program, but when should parents start to consider high schools for their child? I mean, obviously, ideally, any Warren kid, any of the elementary, middle schools should flow right into Warren Central. Same with Lawrence Central, Decatur, Tri West. However, there's some situations where that may not be the best path, right? But when do you feel like a parent should start to consider high schools? And I know I'm asking y'all, it's probably the wrong panel to ask this question, but I'm trying to put it out there for parents. So what do y'all think?
I'll chime in first.
Go ahead, Coach Carothers.
I've had multiple. So since I was at Decatur, I had multiple kids that were not Decatur kids come to Decatur. Not because of me, okay? Because they like the school. Did they know me or know of me as a coach? More than likely, yes. But it is not because of me, because Decatur was not a big girls basketball school recently, I should say. But a parent should be honest with themselves about the opportunities that are available right there at home. Are they really taking advantage of them? Because I know every coach in this panel has a program that they're running that they're very involved in. They're very involved. They're very present in, you know. But we all have had kids who were in our program. Even when I was at Tinley, had in your program, and then they go off to what was told was greener pastures, to someplace else, you know. And it was a kid that you're serving. You've served them for years. You've had them for a long time. And as a coach, you feel like you lost somebody that's in your family, because we all are coaches who believe in family in our programs. Yeah. But I always tell parents, be honest about, you know, are you taking advantage of what's in front of you? But at the same time, you need to make the best decisions for your child, because it's your child. So I'm never going to knock a parent for saying, well, we think we should go across the street here. Okay. But if I can help you in any way, I will, you know, because it's not about the parent. There's no ego involved. It's about, am I serving the child? What's best for the child? Coach, I'm going to go play for here over here, but I know you know this AAU program. Can you help me with that? Yes, I can. Because again, we're about service to the child. So I think we're doing our best to build our feeder programs. We're doing our best to not leave a child behind. We're doing our best to make sure that we're involved in putting people in the right position, in the place to help the growth of our children, not just the program, but of the children, the people. Basketball is just how we met. Okay, am I helping you be a better person as well? If I'm not, I have failed. Regardless of how many state championships or where I'm coaching, I have failed if I'm not doing right by your child as a young lady.
Definitely.
So, but if they decide to go elsewhere, I will help you in any way that I can. That's it. That's it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Any other comments on that? A win?
You know what? If I can, I would definitely recommend, again, this whole process to be as optimal as possible. Mm-hmm. It all starts with a true understanding of your child's potential, where you think their end game is. And this, you may think that I'm pitching right now, but I'm not. I'm saying, if you've got a kid that wants to play college and they have very lofty goals, I don't know why they wouldn't come to Lawrence Central. And I'm not pushing that, right? But one, I know what it looks like. There's 2 girls out on this court that one just played for the USA basketball team. I've got 4 girls that are playing college after high school. You come and it's a blueprint, right? We've got Rutgers, we got UConn, we got all these different coaches in the gym. I don't think with any of these coaches in terms of development, I don't think any coach that's on this panel you can go wrong with. Like you got Coach Mitchell, he just won a state championship. Well, he knows what it looks like. So if that's something you do, then look at the history of the person that you're potentially going to play for. Coach Carothers has had a ton of kids that maybe haven't been at the Power 5 level, but he's worked with a ton of kids which is most times more difficult. It is more difficult. I don't have to call college coaches to recruit the kids. They call me, right? And I just happen to have those connections, and largely because I played with a lot of them. And I also coached at the collegiate level. So I worked alongside them recruiting, and they know that I have the eye for it. And they'll ask me in my practice, do you think, like NC State asked me, hey, can this kid play for us? I said, I don't think so. And it's just being honest, right? But I don't know why parents listen to people who have not done what they're wanting to do, and they accept that advice. So that for me it's just interesting, but it's not smart.
No, this is invaluable. Coach Mitchell, Coach Bennett, either of you guys have any additional comments?
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what she said, especially, I mean, everything she just said was spot on, but especially what she said at the end. You know, parents, make sure you are talking to people who have done it before and have been around it, not just as a player, but as a coach, because there are some individuals out there in the AAU world that have not done it. Okay, not done it on any level, and they give bad advice.
Absolutely.
You know, but so when you ask them, when you're talking about choices of kids coming into to high school, when should they start considering it? I mean, as soon as they start playing travel ball or youth ball. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give an example of what happened at Warren Central. When I took the job at Warren Central, we didn't have any seniors, but we had some really good freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. And I had 4 girls that were freshmen that were really good. So there were some individuals who were coming up through our youth program, our travel league program. And I spoke with the mom and the parents, and they were up front. They were worrying about playing time. They were like, "Hey, look, my daughter's going to be a freshman next year. You guys have Shayla Beeler, T Mac, Sydney, you know, the KJ Talley, players like that who are all young. Parents some parents want their kids to be able to come and play." And I had a very good and a candid conversation with a parent. I was like, "Hey, look, I understand, you know, where you're coming from. They didn't come to Warren. They went to LC because it was room over there. You know, they could come in and play as freshmen." So, I mean, in an ideal world, we all want to keep our own kids. We do. But, you know, Coach Lampley, you guys are loaded right now.
Who?
Okay? Yeah, you're loaded. Y'all got some players. And I know as coaches, we always think, well, we can have even more. I agree. We could use more, but you got some really good players. And okay, and some people may go, well, I mean, I go there and be able to play it immediately, which is what happened to me.
Sure.
At Warren Central, because we had 3 or 4 girls that were 1 or 2 years behind Shayla and Kayla and KJ them, and they didn't want to wait. So they end up going to, you know, so it kind of happens, you know. Like I said, in the ideal world, those kids that grow up in our townships and go to our playing our youth leagues and in our travel leagues, they should want to come to our schools where they are. But like you said, Coach Lampley, you know, when they look at the landscape of where they should be going, they may choose to go somewhere else because kids want to get on the court now.
Sure.
I know when I was coming up, I'm a little older than everybody on the panel. You know, we got in line. You know, we fought hard, and if by the time we were juniors, it was our turn, then that was our turn, and we're gonna go get down and we're gonna get after it. Some kids and a lot of our parents today don't want to wait, and I understand. I mean, I get it. People are just cut different, but so I mean, it's really the landscape of where you're going. That's really what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Coach Bennett, any comments?
The only thing I would add, I would go back to the expectation again. You know, like not everybody can go D1. And I think if you have a realistic expectation that, hey, my kid wants to play in college, well, that may mean JUCO, it may mean NAIA. That's okay. You know, that's okay. And so when you do start playing travel, I think you do need to consider whether you want to go somewhere else so you can try to get on the court and play immediately, or you want to continue to get those reps on the JV team or the freshman team so you can build into it to be a better player. Because as easy as it is to play, because you're going to, I would just say,
I don't know if that's me or if that's Coach Bennett breaking up just a little.
I think he's buffering a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you think that. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll come back to you, Coach. But I appreciate that comment. What are your thoughts? And we don't have to belabor this too long, but just out of curiosity, what are your thoughts on girls playing multiple sports, especially with the challenge of how tough it is? I mean, basketball is a skill, and like you have to spend time continuing to develop it. If you don't dribble a basketball for 2 months, 3 months, it's a different. It takes a little bit to get back that sharpness to handle it. But what are your thoughts? And we can start with Coach Carothers. Just any thoughts on if girls are playing multiple sports? Is it frowned upon? Is it encouraged? What are your thoughts there, Coach?
I think you should be able to play whatever sports you want to play. I think you also have to be honest with if we're talking about a young lady who's serious about playing in college, AAU is going to run in the spring season. You know what I mean? So you're going to be playing in April and May while you're in track or softball. So you kind of got to be realistic about what do you really want out of your high school experience, but you should never knock a kid for wanting to do more in one sport. Never. It's her life. She has to live it. And you want them to have those experiences, right? You want them to, to be able to really put their best foot forward. I would say if your daughter's playing multiple sports, she needs to be serious about the sport that she's in, and when she's with that sport, she got to give her all to that sport. So if she is a volleyball player that plays basketball, give your all during volleyball season. But when it comes time to basketball, play basketball. You know what I mean? Do you still have to go to club practices and workouts and stuff? Yes, I'm sure you still do. I would expect the same thing about a basketball player who ran track. I respect the same thing, but give your all to that team, just like you would your first sport, I would say. But never knock a kid for playing more than one sport. I mean, in high school, I played 3 sports, but when I was in season, and I had to make time to do the other stuff, and I had to communicate when I had a conflict, so that's it. That's really it.
Good point. Any other thoughts, comments around that from anyone?
I think playing multiple sports is good. I think it adds diversity. Some sports crossover. I tell you, some of the toughest girls I've played against, coached against, have been them doggone soccer players. Their feet are just magnificent, and they have tremendous conditioning. Tennis players as well. I've talked to coaches players that play tennis just to stop it and starting in the agility. So if you play more than one sport, I think that kind of adds a little bit of diversity to your, to your athleticism and your performance.
What about coaches? Have you ever heard that coaches may hold it against players? Have y'all, like, if a girl has missed several workouts, even though she's playing, volleyball or some other sport, have you seen that is ever held against a young lady potentially?
Yeah, I've heard coaches complain about it. I don't know if they actually held it against them, but I've heard coaches complain about it. But I just believe if you want to treat that kid like you want somebody to treat your kid,
right.
You know what I mean? And if your kid wants to do more than one sport, you support it, and that's where the coaching come in. If you really are somebody who's proud of your craft and what you do, you'll find a way, and that's what we as coaches do. We find ways to make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think you got to be honest with the child and the parent up front. If this child is a varsity player and you're playing at a high level, you're playing for a basketball, 3A basketball, and your offense isn't hold the ball. You know what I mean? Your offense is a real free flowing offense, and you're letting your kids get down, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has to know what decisions to make on the floor, and she has to know how to study for the test that's coming. Like coach said, she got to be in practice to be prepared for those to make those answers in the game. And if you miss 3 practices in a week for basketball, we got 2 games at least a week. So there's only 6 days that you can actually practice here in Indiana. It's not like Ohio where you can play on Sunday. So you gonna miss a lot if you miss 3 days of practice. You miss 2 days of practice. So I mean, can't say that a coach is gonna hold it against them and just be mad at that kid. But I do want to put you in a position to be successful. And if you don't know the answers to the test, I mean, if you don't know the play when I'm running a sideline out of bounds and I sub you out, you can't get upset because you weren't there to learn to play. It's nothing personal,
Right.
If you're a great athlete, I'm probably gonna put you back in. But for that particular moment, in the heat of the moment, when you want your closers on the floor, we're in an overtime game, Coach O. Okay, you want your kids is going to execute in the game. Maybe not be your best athletes.
You got to go with who you trust.
Execute. You got to go with who you trust. You got to go with who you trust.
But Nick, I'm Coach Nick. I'm gonna say this too. If you got a killer that's in that situation, I believe you're gonna find a way to make it to where they can be successful if you need them in that last second of the game.
Yeah.
That killer, like I said, that's where the coaching comes in. That's where the timeouts come in. I mean, that's where the adjustments come in, and we all make them at halftime.
But what if she's your 7th or 8th player? You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, I've played in games where I've had to use my 7th or 8th player to get through a game at the end because maybe one of my best players have fouled out. And we're all capable of doing it. I mean, we find ways. I mean, it's part of coaching and it's something that we all do. You know what I'm saying? We've all done it. I know we've all done it. Yeah. You've had a situation where, your best player fouled out. You got 2 minutes left and here you are, you're going to your 8th player or your 9th player. That's why I tell all of our girls, and I'm sure everyone here does the same thing. We're only as good as the least of us, because you never know that ball is going to find you at that opportune time, and I'm going to need you to perform. So, I mean, we all do it. You know, we all have been put in situations where it's not ideal, but we make a way.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think it sounds like, just from listening to you both, I mean, so if the kid is playing multiple sports and potentially missing practice time, it's on that kid to then get whatever film, whatever they can get to get caught up, or be doing some work on their own, ball handling, shooting, you know, lateral movement, whatever they need to do to not get behind. So it's kind of two sides to it. So I got a question that I'm not going to put it up, but I'm going to read it off. You guys should be able to see it. If you have a group of seniors who don't really get along, but are also focused more on personal goals than team success, how do you approach this situation? Let's go with Coach Lampley.
So you got a group of girls that are more focused on their personal success. Mm-hmm. You know what? I think this one, you got to go off the court to start. I think your chemistry is going to be your first issue. So maybe do some things to help them evolve as a unit off the floor first. Mm-hmm. That's tough. All 6, that's tough. That's tough. One or 2 is tough, but 6, cut them. No, I'm just...
No, but off the court, it's definitely gonna need to be what do they used to call it, lemon squeeze? I've heard all kinds of different things for it, but it's gonna have to probably be something off the court. I agree with that.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Coach Bennett, what do you think? What would you how would you respond to this?
I agree with Coach Lampley. I think you start off the court, man, and you try to do some team building, and you try to help them realize that it's a team thing, and you know, if everybody succeeds, all of you individually succeed. So it's got to be off the court to start with. And then from there you got to start picking and choosing who you sit, who you play, and keep having those conversations.
Yep, good point. Any other thoughts on that? That's a good question.
It's a great question. I'm gonna let that one go. That's hard. That, like Coach said, 6 people.
I'm gonna give some feedback on that. I mean, can you read that question to me again to make sure I got it right?
Sure. If you have a group of seniors who don't really get along, but are also focused more on personal goals than team success, how do you approach this situation?
Okay, so you got a group of seniors that don't get along, so there's some separation there, and they all can focus on their personal goals. You definitely, that's a conversation you want to sit down and have with them, and you really want to ask them, you know, what are they willing to do for the team? You know, because I ask my girls this all the time sometimes, and this is sometimes when we have those tough practices and they're not in the greatest of moods. But I ask them, you know, if everyone on this team thinks about this team the way I think about this team, and you know, you want to ask each one of those individuals, you know, how good do you want this team to be? You know, if everyone on this team thinks about this team the way you think about it, and depending on what your answers are, you got to start making some hard decisions. You definitely want to talk to the parents and let the parents know whether individual child is as far as the mindset about the team, because you know it's a team thing. It's for all of us. You know, we can't. I tell our girls all the time, the boats rise and go down with the tide. We all rise together, and if we're all working good together and we're doing well together, then we all shine. And if we're not, then we won't shine. So you want to have a conversation with the player, and then also you want to talk to the parents about where we are, and then make a plan. And then you kind of try to work that plan. And then if that plan isn't working, then you got to make some adjustments to it, because in the end, everything is for the team. You know, if the team is succeeding, then everybody else it'll be great. But if you got individuals that don't get along and they're working and they worry about individual statistics and things like that, that's not good.
So, Coach Mitchell, I'm going to park here for a quick second.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've had to actually deal with this situation before, but with the current society, very likely if the girls don't really get along, the parents are probably like they're taking that home, and now the parents probably are saying stuff about other kids or the other families. And so you're right, it is a parent involvement now into it. So in that situation, are you saying that you would try to sit down with, like, let's say it was three of them and their parents? You'd sit down with the group of them and you'd have like a group discussion with all of them, or are you saying individually?
First, I would start individually. Let's just pick two girls. Let's just say you got two girls that just don't get along, and it's just beef there, and it's showing up in practice. It's showing up on the court. You definitely want to talk to them individually, get the stories, try to find out how can we meet at a happy medium, and then you also want to talk to parents as well. Now, since I've been coaching girls, I've been blessed to have great girls. Haven't had that, but when I was coaching boys, we had to do that where we had parents, kids that didn't get along, and then we brought the parents in, and we were able to work out something that we could get through a season. But you definitely got to have a conversation, and you got to make a plan, and you got to try to work that plan, and then you got to put some things in place. This is where you talk to your athletic directors and your administrators, because you got to get everybody involved. Yeah. There may need to be some counseling that needs to be added to that, because you want everybody to succeed. You only get to come through high school one time,
right?
And you don't want nobody to walk out your doors going, man, that I had a poor experience. So you want to try to do as much as you can to make it work, and call as many resources as you can to make it work.
Oh, that's good stuff. Really good stuff. For any other comments, I got a funny comment or question for Coach Lampley. Mr. Gary Harris said, has Coach Lampley learned how to stop the old school back down move that was perfected in the 80s and 90s? Hey, I knew he was going to mess with you.
I know it. You know what? You know what, Mr. Harris? I absolutely have. I just haven't figured out how to do it from half court. Okay. So, because he starts his back down from half court. I don't know how to defend the half court Charles Barkley back down. My apologies.
Oh, that's too funny. Too funny. We'll move on. What are some of the major adjustments for a kid going from 8th grade to high school, on and off the court? And I'm going to start with you, Coach Bennett, on this one. Just some of the things that you've seen, that just to give a parent a heads up on, hey, your daughter might go through this or experience this that could potentially distract or whatever. But what are some of those adjustments that you've seen from young ladies?
I didn't hear you right there. What'd you say?
Oh, I just said, what are some of the adjustments that you've seen from like an 8th grade girl going into high school, like on or off the court? But just some of those adjustments that make it to where it's just not, it may not be a smooth transition, right? Just due to multiple factors. But what are some of the ones that you've seen in your experience?
I think when you see 8th graders coming into the high school, the speed and the physicality are the two biggest things that are glaring. Mm-hmm. And so, and them having to remember a lot of things, and then making friends with the older kids, right? They feel left out. So you have to do some things that you team build. I have always liked coaching like IGHL 8th graders in the fall, so that they can get to know me and bring them into practice, and they can get to know some of the girls, so that transition is a little bit smoother. And I think it's always worked. But when you start talking about the physicality and the speed of the game, those are things they just have to work out on their own by playing more and being more involved on the court with those kids. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the biggest thing. Unless you have a freshman or somebody who comes in that's exceptional and that can handle it, I think you try as best as you can to try to put them in position to be able to handle the physicality and the speed of the game coming in.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Good stuff. Coach Carothers, any thoughts on that? Just some of the adjustments that you've seen from 8th grade going into high school.
I would say the biggest adjustment is the expectations. Stage is bigger, right? you have a player or a couple players that were standout players, not only at their middle school, but in AAU. And they're coming into a high school and they're all these expectations others might have on them. And you have to make it make sense for them. You have to make them compartmentalize. We're going to work one day, one drill, one possession at a time in your development to help you get ready for the speed, the physicality of the game, all of that on the court. What you have to focus on is the workload that's different from middle school than it is high school, and the prioritizing your time now. Okay, because the day is different. The day is different in high school. You know, you got more classes to attend, or you got block scheduling. You know, it might be different than what it was in middle school. You have 7, 8 different teachers now that's expecting you to do this. You have weight class every day. You know, you got a strength and conditioning class that you expect to be in because you're a top athlete, you know, and you have to go to that weight class. That's an extension of your workout for basketball, because then you got weights for basketball too. So now your body is fatigued, your mind is fatigued, and now you got to find your social standing in this new group of girls. Okay. So you have to, like Coach Bennett said, you got to start early. So we're doing lock-ins at the school. You know, we're going to Top Golf. We're playing in the summertime. They're coming to workouts in the spring when we're able to limited contact and we're outside. We're running on the track or we're just doing some simple stuff. They're there. They're present. You know, and then you lean on your culture. Your culture has to be a nurturing culture for those girls to come into, not just from you and your staff. And your staff, and it can't just be you as a head coach, your staff. I'm blessed to have a wonderful staff that is in there with the girls, building relationships, meaningful relationships that have to do with beyond the game. So that when she's struggling academically, when she's overwhelmed, when she's frustrated, when she just got yelled at by mom and dad, her phone just got taken, she can prioritize what's important. My academics, okay? Making sure I'm present every day, mentally and physically, and the game will take care of itself. The game is already hard enough. So you coming in the gym, it should be your sanctuary. You get in the weight room, it should be your place of peace, your place to burn out everything else that happened in the day and just focus on what you have to do right here in this possession, in this time, in this moment that we're together. And let's make it fun. You know, let's make it an enjoyable environment. Let's bring you into the family as if you were a newborn baby. Everybody's excited about a newborn baby. You know, everybody's excited about how cute that baby is, or oh, that feels so nice. It's the same thing for your underclassmen coming in. You know, and at the same time, that baby, the expectations of your program. You know how hard the work is going to be. You're not sugarcoating it for them. You're not slow stepping it. Hey, you got to get in here and earn everything that you get, because if I give it to you, I lose the whole team. So you're going to have to come in here, you're going to have to work and take it and earn the respect of your teammates. Earn every minute that you're on the floor. Earn the shots that you put up in the game. You got to earn it. I can't give it to you. Once they understand that and they buy into that and they are folded into your culture, the team will encase them. My team walks around together all day, every day. In passing period, they come and they meet at a central location just to give gab about what's going on. And I know you peeked at your phone during class. You can't lie to me. I know you did. You know, but you got to see each other. It's the culture that you're building. You know, once they're folded into that culture, everything else it's just basketball after that. It's just basketball. Yep.
Exactly. I guess just to kind of segue, that's a good segue. What would make you play or start a freshman in your program? We'll start with you, Coach Mitchell. You've had some killer teams over there at Warren Central. And so I know how hard it would be to come in as a freshman and contribute. But what would make you actually play, or just some of those contributing factors that would help you get a young person on the floor?
If they're ready for it. Since I've been at Warren, I've had 3 or 4 girls to come in as freshmen and play. Yeah, I've had girls that play 4 years, you know, be 4-year starters. Just graduated 2 that were 4-year starters. And then before that, I had a couple girls that were 3 of them that were 4-year starters. Shayla Beeler, Trinity McClendon, and Big Sydney. So if they can handle it, you know, it's an adjustment because 8th grade basketball is different. the pace of the game. And like Coach Carothers said earlier, you know, when you're a freshman, even though you're really good, you're playing against juniors and seniors who've been in the weight room. They've got 2 or 3 years of playing experience.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can play, if they can handle it, you know, yeah, they should be able to get on the court. I believe in you put your best players out there, no matter what grade they're in.
So some of the specifics, Coach Lampley, that would make that possible, like, and it could be defensive, it could be shooting, it could be whatever, but like just maybe some of those specifics for an athlete or parent that are listening right now, just to help them as they're approaching tryouts. Y'all have tryouts in 3 weeks, right?
We do.
So some of those things that help them stand out to be able to get out.
Sure. Well, as you allude to, performance for one, effectiveness, because a lot of people, we like to do a lot of different things and play the game a certain way, but are you effective?
Mm-hmm.
Do you make others better? Are you committed to your craft? Meaning, do you put extra time in, or do we have to beg you and monitor you to get in the gym? Your work ethic. There are some, like Coach Mitchell said, he's had some kids that he's been able to bring in and start immediately. And I actually have had, last year I had 2 freshmen that I started. And some of these specifics that we're speaking of, they demonstrated that. Coachability. Can you handle being held accountable? Are you a good fit in our system? Maybe you're a better fit than someone else. Your potential. And then you get into the measurables. Like maybe, and I think as Coach Mitchell spoke about earlier, that is one of the difficulties of coming to the Lawrence Central program, because any other time your 2 guard may be 5'8", 5'9", but here the guard is 6'1", you know, so, and they're handling like a point guard. So when you look at the measurables, the speed, the height, and efficiency is a skill. Listening is a skill. Is your child able to demonstrate on a consistent basis that they can do those things? And then you also have the reliability on and off the floor, academic performance, where you can put those pieces together. Coach Carothers addressed time management. Are you handling your time wisely so that you can be an asset to the team?
Sure.
So I look at a multitude of things.
So not much, right? Freshmen out here trying to make the varsity. hey, you got to work. You got to work.
I tell you what, you know, what we talked about earlier was the parent and their expectations or their reality. Coach Lampley said, like, you know, what's your reality? You know, and Coach O, you remember when I was at Tinley, you would come in practices and I got an iPad and the manager in the stands with the iPad. And I got a practice plan. And on that practice plan, we are statting every layup, every jump shot, every turnover, every closeout with communication, every time you got to help and actually split the middle. Like when we're doing these drills, we are statting these things and it's on film. This generation is a film generation. We're on YouTube right now. It's a film generation.
Yep.
They will believe it if they see it. They have to see the vision, right? For us, it was television. Someone told you to jump, you didn't ask how high, you just tried to jump as high as you could and say, did I do a good job? You know,
right.
Is that good enough? You know, now they want to see it to believe it. So we record everything. So I record it, and then I go home, I watch practice film, I stat it. Then I adjust my practice plan by what we need as a team, obviously. But when mom or dad comes and says, hey, you know, Susie really, really wants to play on the varsity team, or she really, really would like to shoot threes, and you're asking her to shoot twos, or you're asking her to do this or that. The practice film is there, and I've cut it up already for you to see your daughter, not anybody else's child in the workout. Yeah. We're talking about specifically what your daughter did and her statistics in practice. So here's the shooting percentage. Here's what the drill is. Here's the drill on paper, sir, ma'am. Here's your daughter where she is in the drill. She has not beat this drill. You know, we do something called green light shooting. I got it from University of Arkansas.
That's right. Yeah.
And every kid wants to be a green light shooter. Every kid wants to shoot that Steph Curry 3. Every kid wants that ball downhill and boogie. but how, like you said, Coach Lampley, how effective are you? So we found a way to stat it. We took some of those green light shooting drills and we took some that we remixed ourselves, and Coach Munn, Coach Poston might have remixed a drill. Myself might have remixed a drill, and we statted. And so we allowed them to say, hey, Coach, I want to be a green light shooter this week. Okay, cool. You come in with a coach. You go through these 3 drills. You knock out these 3 drills. You beat these 3 drills. That week, you have the freedom to shoot any practice, any game, as much as you want to, from anywhere you want to, because you earned that.
Yep.
If you don't beat those drills, you got to stick to what the stats and practice that we have. This is the plan for the team, and how you fit in that team is by the work that you put in, and it's on film and it's on paper, so that there's no awkward conversations anymore. I had a parent came in upset about this is not recently, this is years ago. I've been doing this for a while. Parent came in, and I don't think the daughter knew dad was coming, but I require both to be there because I'm a transparent person. I want the child to have a place to speak. I never will take her voice. Her voice is powerful, so I want her to have a chance to speak her truth. I'm gonna listen to the father, and I'm gonna listen all the way thoroughly, and then I present the information that we have collected over the last week and the games, and then we talk about it. Before I even got to that part, the child spoke up and said, Dad, I can't beat the drill, and there's 5 people that beat me out every week. I've only gotten the top 5 1 week, and that was the first week of tryouts, because Dad was mad she wasn't starting after the first week of the season. She was still playing. She was actually a closer. Coaches, we care more about who's closing than who's starting. Right. She was actually a closer because I could trust her. I knew she would do what the team needed, but starting is important to them. Mm-hmm. So have you earned that starting spot? These things in practice determine that. You determine where you play. You determine at what level you play at. You determine your playing time. Like Coach Lampley said, your effort, your energy, are you putting in the extra work? You determine your shots off of your statistics of what we're doing in practice. And so on game day, you've already put in the work to bake the cake. We've already put the icing on it. It's just time to light the candle and let you shine in the area that you have been effective. And if I do not do that, how can I justify to my superior that I am putting my best foot forward as a coach to put the child in the best position to be successful? Period.
Hey, I just got to stop here and say, man, people listening to this right now, this is high school coaching. This is what your daughter is signed up for. These are excellent high school coaches, and you're getting college level preparation. I mean, y'all have, just in what we've already covered, this is invaluable. So I would plead with you to make sure you're taking notes. You watch this as many times as you need to, because this is what your child, you want this. You may think it sounds a lot, it's harsh, it's just high school, but this is what you want. If your kid wants to be a high level player, these are the details that they will be governed under for the next 4 years. And if they get to play and they're fortunate to play beyond high school, they're going to have managers, 10 managers doing every stat, every drill, everything, just what Coach Carothers is just talking about. So just keep that in mind. This is what you want. I promise you, this is what you want. So I appreciate, I don't know how we can add to that, because that was a whole sermon right there, Coach. All right, so I'm gonna come back to you, Coach Bennett. We lost you there for a second. Yep. What are your thoughts on upperclassmen? Maybe feeling entitled, where they played last year, and you may have a good group of underclassmen, whether it be sophomores that are returning or even freshmen that are coming in. But what would you say to upperclassmen? Because some coaches, I mean, we know them. They're going to play seniors and juniors regardless. Yep. They just are. They feel like they waited their turn. So we're going to win or lose with our upperclassmen. Hmm. But what would you say to those upperclassmen in that situation? Like, what do they need to do? Should they feel entitled? Should they feel like I'm going to play regardless? Or what are your thoughts around that?
Well, I'll go back to something that Coach Carothers said. He talked about the culture. Mm-hmm. And I think as a coach, like you set the standard early about how your culture is and about playing time. Mm-hmm. And parents can like it or not like it. At the end of the day, like they have a choice of their kid, whether they want to play or not. And so for me, I think just like college. Every year you come back, you have to be better. You have to get better. And just because you're an upperclassman, and let's say you played a ton the year before, I've seen it where some people come back after that junior year and they come back in as a senior. They didn't put in extra work. They didn't make all the open gyms. They didn't come to all the workouts, and they think they're going to come in and start. But then there was somebody who didn't play a whole lot last year who was kind of passed them up. And now you're giving them that attention because it goes back to trust too. And so now they have to play catch up. So I would tell those kids, like, we always have exit interviews at the end of the season. You're told what you need to work on to get better. That's to help grow the program. So every year you come back, people think about going to college. If you're on scholarship, that scholarship's renewed every year.
1 year renewable.
It's not 4 years and you just there. It's renewed every year.
That's right.
And you have that conversation about either you're doing your job or you're not. I think it's the same for high school. Yes, you want to have fun, but you have to come back better every single year. And just because you're an upperclassman, that doesn't mean that you're given anything. And I've always been that way.
It's good stuff. Coach Mitchell, I mean, sounds like you might have even kind of dealt with this situation when you had mentioned the scenario a few years ago. What are your thoughts on upperclassmen and potentially feeling entitled?
Well, ideally, you want your upperclassmen to set your culture, like what Coach Bennett and Coach Carothers and Coach Lampley mentioned. You want your upperclassmen to set your culture. So if they're the ones that have setting the culture and the culture is what you want it to be, then I wouldn't necessarily call it entitlement, but they've earned it. You know what I'm saying? And they earned it through maintaining your culture, and then they earned it through maintaining a high level of play. Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to actual playing time and playing to win games, we're all going to play the best players. Okay, we're going to play who gives us the best opportunity to win. Absolutely. So that doesn't mean that if you have let's say if you got a junior and a sophomore, the sophomore will give you a better chance to win. That doesn't mean that junior isn't going to play, isn't going to participate, right? Isn't going to have some type of leadership role. Because I was talking with my coaches just the other day about captains. Sometimes your captains and your leaders are not necessarily your best players. You know what I'm saying? So roles for upperclassmen, they can vary. If you're an upperclassman, like what I've had in the past, where you started since you were a freshman, and again, I've been blessed with that. They maintain that intensity, that excellence, that they all kept growing year after year. I mean, I can't think of any of my young girls who started for me when they were freshmen who didn't maintain throughout their whole time there. Mm-hmm. Now, will I have one that doesn't do it? It may happen at some point, but I haven't had that so far. But if I were to have one that has fallen off, or a younger person may come in and take that spot as far as starting or playing a little bit more, I still want to incorporate that upperclassman just in the whole culture of things. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Because I mean, we all know that if our kids buy into us, it's kind of like a family, and they care about us. They're fond of us. We're fond of them. They don't want to disappoint.
That's right.
Okay? Right. So even if you get them when they're upperclassmen and someone younger may be coming in, taking a little bit of their playing time from them, if they're a part of the culture, and if they're a part of what we do, then they will still provide a certain amount of leadership and do things to still help the team win. So when it comes to that, entitlement, you don't want anybody to feel entitled. You want everybody to feel like they have to work, year after year. I mean, we all do it. And especially, those that want to go on to college, this is preparing for college, because every year that college coach, he's going out or she's going out to make the team better.
That's right.
So every year, if you're a freshman, you get your scholarship renewed for the next year, you better come back better, because coach is going out to get someone to make the team better too. So that's just the reality of life.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. Let's transition to parents. Parents that are listening in. Let's start with Coach Lampley. So what does an ideal parent of a player in your program look like for you as a coach? And then how would they engage with you, and the program? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. And we're fortunate this year to have a lot of great parents. They take an interest in the program. Like other coaches have mentioned, it's a family. This thing is not fun if you think you can show up to every game and just cheer for your child.
Right.
To the best experience is to come and be excited for other kids to win, and they could be small wins. Maybe it's a kid that got out on the court and made a move or made a shot or something like that, or some type of advancement for them in their own right. But be happy for that. Not just excited when things are going well for their own child. They support the program. Small things like we have fundraisers. I have parents that participate and they help organize, they help with meals, and they offer, because sometimes we don't always know exactly what the needs or the nuances of things may be. But they offer resources that can be advantageous to the program. And maybe it's an urgent moment of need that we didn't know would arise, but they're there. And then in terms of the playing aspect, one, they take the time to understand what the expectations are, and they advocate for the coaching, because and we've had that conversation. I never go to anybody's house and tell them who's going to do dishes and I don't run anybody's house. So don't run my house, right? And mom and dad are always right at home, and I try to support them. That's their rule. But at the same time, a little bit of reciprocity is helpful. And then just seeking to get on the same page about the reality of their child. And we don't have to beat each other up with the words, but clarity is so powerful. Clarity and transparency, and just sharing with parents exactly what maybe a role looks like for their kid, just embracing that and hoping that they don't. We always say that comparison is the thief of joy. So let's not compare what another kid has, or because there's expectations that come with whatever that child may have. But if we can just keep it focused on your kid, and ultimately holistically we can keep the main thing.
Coach Carothers, anything you would add to that as far as what a ideal parent would look like in a program that you're coaching?
A parent that is like Coach Lampley said, the most supportive, the biggest cheerleader for their child. Like us as coaches, we're very critical of them. I always say the worst thing that a man can do to a woman is lie to her. So I'm going to tell your daughter when she's doing something wrong. As a parent, if you were telling your youngest or your oldest that they were doing something wrong, and your youngest echoed it, you would say, let me be the parent. I say the same thing. I'm not going to tell your child what to do in your home. That is your home. But when they're in the gym and you have trusted me with their development, with their growth, with pushing them positively towards their goals, allow me to do that and support me as I support you. But be their biggest cheerleader, because I might have been really on her that game. Not because she did anything wrong, because I know she has more. Because I know that she has a potential that she hasn't tapped yet, and we're trying to prepare her for what's coming next at the next level. So being her biggest fan is the ideal parent for me. Being very honest with me as a coach about your concerns. I want to know what you're concerned about with your child. Because you have trusted me with part of her development, we have to have to be able to have those conversations that are uncomfortable, that you might be upset with me or not understand what's going on. And you might ask, hey, coach, talk to me. Tell me what's this, and that. We want to have those conversations as coaches. We want to serve these children the right way. The biggest thing for me is the timing. Right after the game, win or lose, my mind might be, we didn't rebound well. We won, but we just didn't rebound well. So I'm critiquing myself as a coach too. I'm being hard on myself as a coach. I lost by 6 points or less. It's my fault. So I'm mad at myself. I won by 6 points or more. It's too close. We weren't as dominant as I believe that we could be. So I'm still being critical of myself in the same right, So the timing is super duper important. Set a time. Let's have a sit down conversation. Bring your concerns. Let's work together to give your child what she needs. That is the ideal parent for me. That is the ideal parent for me. Just trusting us with your child is really, really big. I don't have daughters. I have 2 sons. So I try to be very, very delicate with how I approach your child. A lot of my practice, I start by going around the circle and I ask each young lady and my coaches individually, how was your day and how are you? So that I know how to reach you. And I ask them to be honest with me, because you might have had a terrible day. You might have failed a test that you really, really studied hard for, or broke up with a significant other, or mom and dad was on you, or you're stressed because you didn't get this offer.
Man, I feel like you my pastor, Coach Carothers. I need to bring you in, man.
Tell me what you need from me, right?
I love it,
I don't
man.
come at you the wrong way. So that's it.
This is awesome, man. So what you said, part of what you said there. So I'm gonna throw this to Coach Bennett and Coach Mitchell. Do you have conversations about playing time? I mean, because some coaches just tell you up front at the beginning of the season in a meeting, I don't have conversations about playing time. But if playing time is a part of one of the challenges with, one of the girls on your team, I mean, is that something you guys are open to, having that discussion with the parent and the child?
I'll go first, Coach Bennett, if you don't mind. If you were asking the old school Coach Mitchell this from years ago and how I was coached, we ain't talking about playing time. But the way these kids and parents today are wired, yes, I talk about playing time. Now I won't talk about one player's playing time as opposed to another's. But what can I do to get more playing time? We'll talk about that. But I always first I asked the player, you're in practice every day. You know what we expect. Mm-hmm. What are you telling your mom and dad that you need to do for more playing time? We'll put it on them first. And then I clarify with the parent. So yeah, we talk about playing time. We talk about what it takes to get more playing time. We talk about the competition levels that we need in practice. It's really about consistency from what I see sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes kids will come in and give you 2 or 3 real good days, and you're like, man, they're heading in the right direction. And 2 or 3 or 4 more days are not quite what you want. And I'm like, man, but those are the kind of conversations, that I like to have. Because like I said, old school Coach Mitchell, the way I was taught and raised and coached, we ain't talking about playing time. Yeah. You do what the coach asks you to do, and you'll get it. But nowadays, our parents today are different. Our kids are different, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that, it's more about information. So you share with them what the expectations are. And then now it's up to that kid and that parent. Okay, let's try to get there.
Definitely. Coach Bennett, anything you want to add to that?
I have always said I won't talk to parents about playing time, but I will always talk to the kids. I think, you tell the kids what their roles are. If a kid wants to have more playing time, I think, we're teaching them to be adults. We're helping them with that process, and they have to be able to come to us and say, hey, coach, what can I do to get more playing time? And we have to be honest with them. Like what Coach Mitchell alluded to, like they think because they come talk to you one day and you got a game tomorrow, they're supposed to play tomorrow because they turned it up in practice. And that's, he talked about consistency. Mm-hmm. And, we always tell the kids what we want to see from them. And sometimes it's position based. If you left it up to some people, you have 5'6" guards out there playing because they're the best ones on the team. But in reality, you have to put people in positions, and you do have people who play in front of people.
Yep.
That's right.
And so, having a conversation with parents about playing time, if it comes to that, yes, I absolutely would. But we try as much as possible to set some boundaries on how we have those conversations. And we want the kids to be the one to come to us and ask about that playing time, because most of the time they know. But like Coach Mitchell said, what are you translating to your parents? And that's what you get to the root of it, and that's how you figure it out.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Self-advocacy is key. I mean, because if they do get to play in college, that's what it's going to have to be. It's not going to be parents coming in at that point for sure. So let's talk about what the ideal relationship looks like between the high school and the AAU coach. And I know that each of you, I don't know about you, Coach Mitchell, has coached in AAU environments as well. But speaking now for high school, we'll start with you, Coach Lampley. Like, what would you say the relationship should really look like? Like, if you got a triangle and you got the kid and you got high school coach and then AAU coach, what should that interaction look like?
That whole visual is distortive for me, but I say that and I do understand both sides, because right now it's built where it's like a threat, right? Most AAU relationships with this, because typically the kid goes away, they come back, and it took 5 months to break the habits, and they come back and it's repetitive. But ideally, AAU coaches and high school coaches, the whole common goal is the development of the kid. Right. So you reach out and you say, even if it's email, whatever, but hopefully some type of introduction first and foremost, if you're serious about the kid's development. Right. And ask, like, what are some things you're hoping to develop? Like, what can we help this kid with? How can we be advantageous for this particular player? And then maybe talk about the system a little bit. You don't have to explain and get approval, but just kind of educate them on exactly what the summer is going to look like for them and what a win is for both of them. And maybe it puts them at ease of playing AAU for your program. And then let them be put at ease that you're not recruiting their kid.
That's a big one now.
Yeah. Like, we're trying to develop this kid. This is where we would like for her to be. Ideally, by the end of the summer, we would like for them to have a couple offers. Like, what does that look like? And so I don't think high school coaches and or AAU coaches take the time to do that. So there's a huge gap. There's a gap between both parties. And that's something that we've got to find a way to close that gap. But it starts with educating the high school coach and understanding that the most high school coaches don't have an in-depth knowledge of the AAU process, the college process. And so immediately, because of ignorance, you're a threat.
Right.
And it may not be that. So I would like to see that improve on a lot of different fronts.
Definitely. That's good stuff. Good stuff, Jannon. Coach Carothers, any thoughts on that?
I think, like Coach Lampley said, is that it really has to be a team effort. Like, there really has to be an open line of communication all the time. Here's an example. In the fall right now, there is AAU tryouts. There are AAU workouts to try to get on the AAU team. At the same time, some of those AAU workouts may not be in your city, may not be in your state.
Yep.
So what if they conflict with an open gym? An open gym that you have invited college coaches to come to, but the child is traveling out of state to go into an AAU.
Oh, that's real.
Workout. You see what I'm saying? Like, the open line of communication is really, really big. Now, for a high school coach, I know that sounds like more work, so don't freak out. It is. You got multiple kids that play on multiple different AAU teams. That's your hope as a coach. You hope that they're playing in the summertime. You hope that they're with somebody helping them develop, getting film out to coaches. But what are you doing to assist that, right? Are you giving that AAU coach the film to send to those college coaches that they have connections with? Because every AAU coach has connections, right? You know what I mean? That's what they tell the kids, But you need to work together for the benefit of the child. How are you serving the child? How does it work for the AAU program, and how does it work for the high school program? Because that AAU coach is going to want your children, that they know you're in a real program, to consider their program to come play for. Okay, so let's work together and let's both tag team her development and her exposure so that she can get the best out of this situation. Because what's going to happen is, from that AAU platform that they're playing on the top AAU program, if they're serious, or they have already offered a child, those college coaches, when they come play in Indiana, they come play IU, Purdue, Butler, IUPUI, they'll stop in your gym. That's right. For practice or for a game. It might be for a quarter, but just to show that they are still serious about this child, if they've already offered, or to see who they are when it comes not outside of the AAU program, when you don't have 7 top players on your team. They want to see who you really are. They want to see who your parents are in the stands when their kid is on the bench. when their kid is starting, when their kid is taking all the shots? Like who am I recruiting? Not just the player, but as who are they being coached by as the high school coach? And what's the culture like there? What's the team look like there? How are they using you here? You know, so the working together part is very, very big. I'm not saying you're gonna be buddy and best friends or your date's gonna line up every single time.
Right.
But I am saying there need to be an open line.
Yeah, that communication for sure. Yeah, I mean, I've heard, you hear an AAU coach say, man, this kid walks around the school every day and they got him every day and the kid hadn't gotten any better. But then you hear a high school coach turn around and say, that kid's with this coach all summer and hanging out with him and all of this stuff, and they didn't get any better. So it's a constant back and forth of if a kid is not where everyone thinks they should be, it's the other coach's fault, So you definitely got to clean that communication up. Like you guys, I've been an AAU coach for several years as well, an AAU coach longer than I've been a high school coach. So it was all about development, for me as an AAU coach. So when I hear some of these definitions of AAU, they show up, roll the ball out, they don't practice. Like that's not ever been my experience. We get in the gym, and that's most of the teams I've had kids that were based in the same city and maybe one in like a Fort Wayne, but they got here for practice, So definitely I agree with that. We need to clean that communication up. Any other comments, Coach Bennett, Coach Mitchell, and then we'll move on after that to this final question, and then we can open it up if there's any other topics.
I'll say, go ahead, Coach. Go ahead, Coach.
I will say I agree with both of them about the open line of communication. I've been a high school head coach longer than I have been an AAU coach, and I got into it so that I could see the other side, not blame the other side.
Right. That's good.
And so for me, it was all about the communication because I felt like, well, why weren't people working, reaching out to me to find out what I wanted these kids to get better at? So I'm doing it.
Right.
And then as a high school coach, like I want to have some ownership in my kids' development anyway. So I want my top 3 kids to play together. How come I can't put them on the same team in the program? So I can try to get my top 3 kids to play together and get better together. Sure. That helps me out. And then being realistic about what level they're at. Some kids, not everybody has A player kids. And so I may have one A player and a bunch of, a couple B players and C and D players. Well, I want to make sure those C and D players level up.
That's right.
So I may have to find something that's appropriate for them where they get the ball in their hand a lot more and they're able to play a lot more. And that takes an open line of communication where you want those kids to play together and do better. So, I got into it because I wanted to see the other side instead of blaming them because I've heard those terms thrown around too. And man, I just, once you jump in there, you get a chance to set the standard of what you want it to look like and try to help other people out. And so you got to treat other people like you would want them to treat yours too.
That's right. Good point. Coach Mitchell.
Yes. And I only coach AAU. I did it for 4 years, long time ago. I did it as a favor for a friend of one of my wife's friends. They didn't have a coach and I coached them for 4 years. And I told them when I met with the parents, I was like, look, I'm a high school coach. My thing is going to be about your son getting better and teach them how to play. So we're going to practice 3 days a week. Yep. If we can get 4, we're going to do that. And I'm going to run this practice like I would my high school practice. So, so I only did that for 4 years, had a real good group of guys, man. It was a grassroots team and I love those guys and I still stay in contact with them today. And those guys got better. Not all of them went to college to play college basketball, but we had a good 4 years and they had great careers in where they play high school.
You're a nice dude, Coach. You said you did that as a favor and stayed for 4 years, man.
I gave up 4 summers, man. I sure did. But you know what, though? I'm going to tell you something. That group of guys, they were the no-name guys on their team. You know what I mean? They were. We didn't have no sponsor. We were a grassroots group, and our first couple of years we got our butts kicked, but then the last 2 years we were able to come back and do some really good things. I don't know if you guys ever remember the Best of the Midwest. They used to have that big tournament.
Yeah,
we were fortunate enough. We got runner-up in that tournament, and if you only knew what kind of team we had, for us to get runner-up in that tournament was huge because we were playing against the Speeces, who were loaded back then when you get the Odins and those guys like that and Conleys, So
that was back when there was bracket play. There wasn't
Yeah. So
you had
and I had a team of everybody's B-list players. But those guys, they enjoyed playing. I enjoyed coaching them. It was fun, man. They really learned a lot. So that was my only experience coaching AAU. But what I would say for this, and I'm just going to be honest with you, teach my kids. If you got my kids on your team, if you're an AAU coach, continue to develop their fundamentals.
Yep.
And please don't run them into the ground and send them back to me hurt. Because I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. I've had kids come back injured. I've had kids come to me in June, and I had to use June ball, which is our time, to get them healthy. I mean, because they're just playing so much. I mean, they need rest. And when they're injured, don't play them when they're injured, because you're trying to hold up a trophy or get a medal.
Good point.
Yep.
Good point. Oh, that's good stuff. Good stuff. So let's this last question here. This could go all sorts of directions, but I'll start with Coach Carothers on this one. How do you feel about the recruiting landscape now and how it's changed from 5 or even 10 years ago for young ladies? And then we can talk about NIL as well. We'll get to that. But just, what are your thoughts around how the recruiting landscape has changed versus 5 or 10 years ago?
Well, I think now it's more competition, especially since COVID, because the last five years, the transfer portal has been jumping.
Yeah.
And kids changing schools every year, every other year. I think the new rule that they're supposed to be putting in is you can only move twice in college. It's going to help a lot of kids. But like, for example, this 23 class, 24 class, it's hard to get them opportunities. It's hard to get them opportunities, because of that transfer portal. But what I do think is really, really great about recruiting right now is more than ever, those college coaches are watching the films that you send them. They are trying to catch the live stream of the game on Baller TV or wherever it's at. They are catching the YouTube streams from the high schools. There's more opportunity for kids to get seen who maybe don't play on a top team, and they play on a second or a third AAU team and not a EYBL team. They're playing on another team. So they're getting opportunities. It may not be the Power 5 opportunity every kid thinks that they want. Coach Lampley, I know you can attest to that. You think that you want that until you actually get there, But if you need to accept that you have an opportunity now to put your best foot forward in everything that you do. There are college coach. I had a conversation with a college coach a couple months ago, and he said, "Yeah, we have a student kind of manager intern, and her job is to only go and follow our kids that we're interested in. Just go follow them on social media, not to see the highlight film that they post. Go watch their story and report back." Like the recruiting has gone beyond just the film that your high school or AAU coach is sending. It is going on. It's a lot more transparent for those college coaches who are putting their job on the line, recruiting your child. Who this intern might be following the cousin or the mom or the dad to see what's being posted on Twitter, or who they bashing, or the assistant coach that's talking about another coach, or the referee that's going live and going off on somebody. Like, they want to see who's in this child's circle. So I think that when you as a high school coach or an AAU coach are honestly promoting a child to a program that can fit in their culture and contribute, you can't lie. You got to tell them the truth. I think it's great because a lot of people get told one thing, or have in the past, especially before COVID, we're told one thing or another about a child, and that child get to campus and might have cost somebody their job. So I think right now it is great because of so much access to the film, whether it's field level or what is it called?
NCSA.
So much access to be able to market your child. I think it's great. For the high school coach, for the AAU coach, the person who benefits is a child. So I love the landscape right now. I'm not coaching AAU anymore because my youngest son is playing travel soccer, so I got to be dad. But But the opportunities that my last team had became from the film that I was able to get from those different places. And kids who maybe didn't have an opportunity now are getting opportunities to go take visits at maybe not a Division I school, but a school where you can get some money and get some school paid for. And that's really, really the goal. Get school paid for.
That's right.
Go someplace you can play. Don't just be on the roster. You know what I mean? So that I love it. I love it.
That's absolutely right. Anything, Coach Bennett, you would add to that?
No, I'll piggyback off what Coach Carothers said, man. There's so much access out there right now, to get film. And if kids use their social media right, man, I mean, they can put themselves out there too, And I do think it's about competition because now college coaches want ready-made kids in the transfer portal. So it's tougher, and so they got to really take advantage of what they can put out there for these coaches so they can get an opportunity. And it might not always be D1. Again, there's so many other levels. There's good Division III basketball. There's good NAI basketball. So, the landscape to get those kids seen and get an opportunity, man, is so great right now, which, we never had back when I was growing up at all. We were still sending VHSs out. You had to mail that thing, man. Like you couldn't. You
send my tape back.
So, yeah, so like, you got kids to get it all out there, man. You can get it all out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's great, man. I like it that kids can compete and try to get to put themselves in position to get an opportunity, man.
What about you, Coach Lampley? I mean, you've got varying levels of programs that I've follow you and see, you've had varying levels of programs come through Lawrence Central. But what do you feel about it? I mean, you went through it yourself at a high level, and then now to see it today, what do you think about it?
I think it depends. It depends which side you're on. And what do I mean by that? Well, you've got kids that are Power 5. They're going to continue to have those opportunities. Mm-hmm. Our coaches on the panel are correct when they say that now you have more access to a variety of audiences for exposure for girls. That's because the demand is greater for college coaches. The portal brings a different component. The rules and how they pertain to the numbers and how they're counted for colleges have had a great impact on how it affects just the landscape in terms of those Power 5 kids still have the opportunities. It's the middle pack. Mm-hmm. Is now the new JUCO.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it's more difficult to get those opportunities. You're seeing some Power 5 kids. I mean, you're better off going high, mid, major when without minus the transfer portal, then you now have less opportunity to get out on the court.
That's
okay.
Right.
If you aspire to play in the WNBA, yes, it's going to mean that you now can go to a mid-major and essentially still have that opportunity. But you won't get to do it at your typical UConn, Notre Dame, whatever, right? And then you add in the component of NIL and you have things like last year, Ashlyn Shade being the front runner for the Miss Basketball candidate. Mm-hmm. That says, you know what, I'm going to go to a prep school, get myself prepared, get reps at my position, and forego an opportunity of the most memorable and last opportunity to win a state championship and be Miss Basketball. Go play to prepare myself for school because you've got teammates making $500,000, $600,000, $800,000, some over $1 million in NIL opportunities. You've got Coach Carothers just had another kid leave his team. I mean, you got a great program, you got a great coach, great teammates, but this seems like a better opportunity possibly for NIL positioning. I don't know that. I'm speculating, complete speculation, because I haven't had that conversation, but you're going to continue to have that happen in the state of Indiana because we don't have you can't take NIL opportunities yet. It hasn't passed in Indiana. It's probably going to be the last state to ever do it, more than likely. So it depends which side you're on, and I think depends the kids that you're dealing with what the lesser of two evils are.
Yeah,
So
I
they
think
shed great light on it, and then here I come, and it's just it's dicey. It just depends on.
no. This is good. I mean, because I think if you're looking at it from a parent lens, most parents will normally think their child is that child that's going to have those opportunities.
Yes.
Right. I mean, so like I think it's good because that's the danger of it. If a kid does take one of these opportunities, you know, where are the people if it doesn't work out?
Yeah.
Where are those people that encouraged all of that? Where are they going to be? Are they going to help get your child into another opportunity? And I think that's the thing that to me, NIL is fantastic. I think it works for the right kids, but some kids probably are going to do better continuing to develop in their current opportunity where they are the top 1, 2, or 3 option and continue to develop that confidence, because hoop is, I mean, y'all know, I mean, it's so much about confidence. And so when a kid may lose that and there's this interruption of it, we don't know that the kid is going to necessarily bounce right back from it. And I think the older that a kid can be before that happens, I think the better off they sometimes are, just because, you know, they've got so much momentum. I hope it works out for all the girls or all the guys that do that. But, you know, I don't want those kids to, if they do have that interruption where they go to that new environment and they see how talented that everybody is now, are they still the dog that can continue to rise and be one of those primary options? You know, are they going to be cool if they're not the top 3 option?
And you just hope the best for that kid. I'm sorry, Coach.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Coach.
You just hope the best for that for the 1 or 2 or 3 exceptional kids that have that opportunity.
Right.
You just hope the best for that kid and wish that child the best, because that child's path might be different than the average player, you know. And it's clear, you know, specifically my situation, I have one that's not an average player. She's the child's got over 60 offers Division I. You know, she is the real deal. It's not sugarcoated about it. She's a good player. So her path, it might be different than everybody else's. You just want to, as a coach, be honest with the parent about, hey, maybe that's not the best thing for your kid. If it's not, if you got to speak up if that you the coach and tell them the truth, you know, and that's part of our job. And they may not want to hear it. They may be mad at you. They might cuss you left and right. You got to tell them the truth, you know, because like you said, if a child is unsuccessful in that, what happens next for that child? You know, because I know some coaches, if a child leave, they shun that child. They may not go to play at a prep school. They might go play at the school across the street. Now they don't want nothing to do with that child. They might, you know what, I'm going to not sign off just because I'm not going to sign off because my ego is hurt. And what we doing? What's best for the child? What's best for the child? You know?
I mean, because the thing is, like, obviously I know the guy side. I'm learning so much, you know, from you all tonight. But on the guy side, we've seen kids that have grown up, you know, they caught all this attention social media wise. They started getting NIL deals. And man, it's like, it's hard for them to actually make it to NBA draft day, you know, and even the kid, as bad as this boy is, I mean, the boy can hoop, but just due to circumstances, whether it's his camp, you know, he ended up getting drafted in the 2nd round. And I think he'll still have a magnificent career, but it's like so many of these kids that you see, they just get derailed, you know, and it's almost like you hope that they did maximize the money, you know, whatever money they did receive, you hope that they made use of it and it can take care of them for some period of time, but you just don't know. You just don't know. So that's why I guess I'm just like, man, it's not for everybody. It's certainly not for, it's only a select few.
No, but if you think about it, Coach, like look at it in real numbers. You look at March Madness. I think March Madness last year generated $1.1 billion in profit. March Madness, not the rest of the season, not the advertising, not sales.
No doubt.
Tickets, nothing, just March Madness, right? And you look at all the schools. You've got 68 schools,
Mhm.
roughly.
Playing, yeah.
You roster 13 of them. You got a little over 1,000, and a true 100% profit sharing. That's $1 million per kid.
Crazy.
That's in that NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Is that worth you $1 million for a kid? You're already on scholarship. Okay. And this is just if we did a complete profit share of revenue, each kid would roughly get $1 million. That's 1 year.
Oh, I'm the biggest.
Why not?
Absolutely.
If you're looking
I
at
think what I'm
numbers.
separating is high school versus
Absolutely.
college.
Absolutely.
Like college, absolutely.
So what happens is it's a trickle down effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's a trickle down effect of where I'm going to go play high school, where I'm going to play AAU, who I'm going to play with, what state is best. Because again, Indiana, we don't have an NIL opportunity.
Right.
So there is a direct trickle down effect. And I don't know if other coaches on the panel know it, but you'll talk to any college coach and they will let you know the collectives at their school. If you have a scholarship here, you're going to make no less than 150, 200,000, and your toes may not even get to touch this court.
It's part of the recruiting package.
And so when you have girls, let's say you've got players 7, 8, 9, 10 who have zero aspiration of playing professionally, why wouldn't I take $600,000-$700,000? So I'll go to school, and you what'd you say, Sally Sue? You go ahead and have my time. I got my NIL. I'm not trying to do this thing professionally. Of course, they would and they should. So again, it just depends on which side you're on.
Mm-hmm. So, Coach Mitchell, what about like the preparation? Has that changed the way that the recruiting landscape is with the transfer portal? Has that changed any of your preparation with your girls? Is it more of a mandate to lift or conditioning or, just film study, just because they are being compared by the time they get to their 12th grade year? I mean, they're being compared to 2, 3, 4-year college basketball players. So has that changed anything for you?
No, because what I want to do is I want to put the best player out there possible by the time they're a senior. And I want to just keep doing the things that we do to make them the best overall player, not just on the court, but in the classroom as well. Because by the time, they get to our doors and they're checking out, our players, they're really checking character more than anything else. They want to see what kind of person are we bringing on campus. Will this person get up at 6 o'clock and come to workouts? Will they go to class? How are they in the weight room? We had a college coach in the other day. He just wanted to see the weight room. Okay. And I told him, I said, hey, we're not scrimmaging today. So you're going to see the weight room and we're working on fundamentals. He's like, I'm fine with that. So he came in and he watched the weight room and he'd already seen film on this particular player that he was interested in. So, I just want to prepare them the best way possible. That way, when it's come time for the rubber to hit the road, they're ready. Because if I tend to do more scrimmaging or try to show them playing more, then that's taken away from our preparation, which is not fair to the rest of our team. And then it's also taken away from their overall preparation. And I was going to answer about the NIL. For anybody, you can't blame them for taking the money if it's an opportunity to get money. You just cannot blame them. You know what I mean? So, like Coach Carothers said, we hope that when they do take those opportunities and take the money for NIL, we hope that it works out for them. And like you said, when they go into those new situations, on this particular team, you may be the alpha dog, but you get over there, it's 8, 9, 10 more of them. It's a certain mindset. I mean, we all have to do it. I remember going to college my freshman year. I got my butt kicked the first 6 months of practice because I was in there with a bunch of grown men, and that was psychological. But thank God I had great parents that told me, hey, look, you're going to stick it out and just keep working. So the same thing for these individuals that go into those situations like that. And when it comes to the landscape of just recruiting, period, man, I think this is a great time for these kids, man. Oh my God! Just like Coach Bennett said, we were sending out VHSs.
Man,
you know what I'm saying? And I mean, these kids can create their own highlight reels and get it out there via Twitter and all these other ways. Coaches can see it. I mean, I think, and with all the new apps and things of that nature, that we can get things out. We got Huddle, we got situations like in our conference where we got the MIC network and other situations like that stream our games, and you know people can see games without having to pay. I think this is a great time, and when it boils down to it, I tell my girls this all the time: if you can get a free education, your parents might buy you a car your freshman year.
There you go.
I kind of make a joke out of it. You get a free education. That's less on your parents, you know, and you're helping them out as well. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is a great time.
No, that's fantastic. Man, what other comments or questions? I guess anything y'all want to leave with parents? I knew it was going to be longer than an hour just when I knew the heavyweights that we had on tonight, that it was going to take us a little longer to get through all of this information. But this has been fantastic. If I'm a parent, if I'm a student athlete, hearing, and y'all have been transparent, candid, talked about personal situations, and I greatly appreciate that. But what other questions or comments before we go through our closing comments? What else would you guys like to discuss or share?
I mean, we doing this for parents. So I would say the biggest thing with the generation of children that we're serving now is for the parents to join in with you. And, you know, as a coach, I know these coaches are the same, like-minded, is that we're not preparing the path for the child. We are preparing the child for the path that is in front of her. That path is not always straight. It's not always smooth. It's not always downhill. It might be upway, might be in bad weather, might be in good weather, but we're preparing her for whatever the child might face on that path. We can't prepare the path. So allow your coach to do the same thing. Allow your coach to do the same thing, regardless if she's in third grade or she's a senior. Allow that coach to prepare the child for the path, wherever it may take her. So that's all I would give them.
That's good stuff, Coach Carothers. Coach Lampley, what do you have? Go ahead, Coach Mitchell.
No,
I think you were going to
go ahead, Coach Lampley. Give me a little more time, think.
Okay.
You know what? I would like to see our parents. You know, we're abrasive in Indiana. We're uptight. And it comes from a good place. We want the most for our child, our children. But I think that we have to start giving our coaches the benefit of the doubt to understand that they want the same thing, and it's collectively about balance. Mm-hmm. How can we be as successful as we possibly can? How can our team reach their highest potential, greatest potential, but at the same time have success off the floor, and each child have their own micro successes, if you will, that we can celebrate. At the end of the day, all of us, I'm sure we have great high grade point averages. Our kids are getting to class, follow the priorities of faith, family, books, and basketball. That, since when is that not enough? Right? Yeah. So my hope is that parents will embrace the relationship, keep open lines of communication. If there's something you're not in agreement with or not understanding of, to take the step. I don't know when you don't understand or you disagree unless you approach me. And let's take that. Let's not widen the gap. Let's try to close that so we can seal our relationships and take care of our kids.
Right.
That's good stuff. Good stuff, Coach Lampley. Coach Mitchell, did you get a second there to get it together, huh?
Yes. And actually, Coach Lampley said some things that I was thinking the same thing. I tell my parents all the time, push your kids in the classroom educationally just as hard as you push them on the court.
Yep.
Okay. Because we all know that we'll do more with our brain in our lifetime than we will with our bodies, you know, and be patient. You know what I mean? Be patient, understanding what, you know, was along the same lines of what Coach Lampley said. And I say this to my players all the time, you know, tell your child to be the best version of themselves. Don't compare themselves to nobody else. That's something that Coach Lampley basically said earlier too. Be the best version of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Don't compare yourself to anyone else. You take care of those 3 things, I think everybody will be happy.
Good stuff, Coach Mitchell. How about you, Coach Bennett? What you got?
Man, everybody pretty much said it all, man. The only thing I would say is that, basketball is a team sport. And for most of these kids, they're in there to enjoy it. And for most of their lives, they're going to have to be a part of a team.
Yeah.
Whether it's in the job, whether it's whatever they do, they're going to be a part of a team. And I think that's the most important thing that we could teach these kids. Some people's roles are going to be a lot more than others, but that doesn't mean that it can't change. And that, teach them to be great teammates and like, Coach Mitchell said, start their role. All right. And then just enjoy the journey. Don't worry about the outcome, but enjoy the journey and learn something from it.
Man, this is awesome. This is fantastic. I just want to kind of close out and just say thank you all so much for coming on, your willingness to share. The state of your programs are in a great place. I know that for sure. What you guys, if I had a daughter, I would feel comfortable with her coming to any of your programs. What's being taught, on the court, off the court about being a good person, it comes through and speaks volumes. So I'm going to get out. I know now for sure I'm coming to some girls basketball games before the boys season gets started. I know LC and Dub C will play each other twice probably.
Could be 3 times if it works out the way I want it to.
You're right. Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Extra 10 for sure. But I will absolutely try West, Decatur Central, Lawrence Central, Warren Central. Man, I wish nothing but good success to each of you, man. And I told y'all earlier, man, I have nothing but love, admiration, and respect for what you guys have done. You make me proud. You make me happy, excited about just, to be a Black person in coaching and having this opportunity to shape lives and develop. And so I hope all of our parents and players tonight who've listened or who will listen, it's a lot. I know it's 2 hours, but we tried to put some little subtitles along there so you can skip through it if you want to hear about certain things. But again, thank you all for coming on tonight. And we'll close out. We've been at just over 2 hours. So we're going to close out, let y'all get some dinner. And, and y'all have a great day at work and school tomorrow. So hold on. Let me see what we got in the comments before okay. Absolutely. Appreciate you guys jumping on in the comment section. So we'll close out for tonight, and I'll send this link out. You'll see it tonight. And thank you again.
Right. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate you providing the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all so much.
Yep.